Good evening, and welcome to the twice-monthly meeting of Westminster's Mayor and Common Council. During the public health emergency, we will be conducting our meetings virtually, and they will be available and streamed live on the city's Facebook page, as well as the Community Media Center channel and website. We'll begin as we do every meeting with the pledge to the flag, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Copies of tonight's agenda and the entire information packet that the council will be using are available online on the city's website. First, we will consider the approval of minutes. We have minutes from the special meeting of the Mayor and Council on November 16th, 2020, and the closed meeting on the same date, the regular meeting on November 23rd, and the special meeting on December 4th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve all 4 sets of minutes.
I'll
Thank you.
second it.
Motion by Ms. Gilbert and a second by Mr. Dayhoff. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it and the ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. Thank you. First item on the agenda is a presentation on a resolution to a highly valued employee who is retiring. And for that, we will turn to the mayor to do the honors.
Okay, my apologies, Mr. President. I thought since it was a council resolution, you were going to read it, but I have it up now and I'm ready. All right, it's a resolution thanking Director of Human Resources, Darlene Childs, for her contributions to the City of Westminster government and her dedication to the betterment of the organization. Whereas Director of Human Resources, Darlene Childs, joined the City of Westminster staff on April 25th, 1991, holding various positions during her almost 30-year career with the city. And throughout her long tenure with the city, Ms. Childs worked diligently to ensure that the Human Resources Department fostered a positive work environment and organizational culture, supported the needs of the various city departments, and provided excellent customer service to the organization's employees. And Ms. Childs' accomplishments include establishment of the city's wellness program and related activities such as the Employee Wellness Committee and the Employee Expo Wellness Fair. And Ms. Childs also enhanced the city's safety and risk management efforts through the creation of an Employee Safety Committee and the annual Safety Day event. And Ms. Childs continually strived to enhance the benefits offered to both current and former city staff members, and exemplified by her implementation of the 24/7, 365 telehealth medical consultation service, a new Medicare supplemental insurance plan that generated savings for both the city and its retirees. And Ms. Childs advocated for the city to become a member of the local government insurance trust health cooperative, which has enabled the city to stabilize its healthcare plan design and premiums and to receive claims fund surplus checks totaling approximately $2 million since July 2011. And the mayor, members of the Common Council, the city attorney, and city staff respected and valued Ms. Childs' technical expertise, guidance, and counsel in human resources matters. And in addition to her technical acumen and work ethic, Ms. Childs was highly regarded for the respect, warmth, kindness, compassion, and empathy she showed to everyone. Ms. Childs delayed her planned retirement in August 2020. We're very thankful for that, to assist the city with the transition process, and will retire from the City of Westminster effective December 21st, 2020. And the Mayor and Common Council wish to recognize Ms. Childs' almost 30 years of exemplary service to the City of Westminster. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Westminster, Maryland, in conjunction with Mayor Dominick, myself, hereby extends its sincere appreciation to Darlene Childs for her many contributions to the City of Westminster government and her dedication to the betterment of the organization. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Childs, thank you so much. Would you like to say a few words before, at this point?
Thank you. Just a few. I guess I just can't believe that it's been almost 30 years since I started working at the city. The time has just gone by so fast, and it's really been a great place to work and a great place to have a career. And I've always found the employees at the city take pride in working there, and I'll miss seeing them and working with them. It's been great because a lot of them I've worked with for a long time. And I also wanted to say that I was really lucky to have a great staff to support me and the HR and to represent the HR department. That was just really nice. They're a good group, and I think that they'll continue to do good work for the city. And I've really enjoyed working with Ms. Matthews these past few years. She's been a wealth of knowledge and very supportive. And I wanted to thank the mayor and council. I've always found all of you to be supportive of any initiatives that I've brought to you. And that's been really great because it supported the employees too. And now my husband and I are looking forward to our retirement, and he's glad my part-time work is almost over. And we're just looking for some time to relax and just do some things we've not really had a chance to do before. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I remember well when we asked you to step out of the finance department and take on the human resources responsibilities, and you really stepped up to the challenge, and it was important to the city to have you do that at the time. And it's been a real pleasure working with you for all these years. And so thank you very much. And on behalf of the council, we hope you enjoy your retirement, and we look forward to seeing you around town sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Move on now to the next item on the agenda, which is a public hearing. Public hearings in the city of Westminster are conducted by the mayor, so I will metaphorically turn the gavel over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, public hearing is for ordinance number 929, an ordinance amending Chapter 16, Code of Ethics to incorporate changes in state law with respect to local ethics ordinances and to broaden the city's financial disclosure requirements for elected officials and candidates for elected office. Ms. Levan.
Good evening. So this is an ordinance that is intended to conform your ordinance to the models that the state has created in order to come into agreement with the state that you are in compliance with their requirements. In addition, it makes some additional changes that were requested by certain council members during the drafting process that will in effect make your ordinance slightly more strict than the state requires. I believe that we went through previously the individual provisions, but I can go through the sections with you this evening if you would like.
I think just a quick summary. We've already gone over them individually, but I think a short summary would be good.
Okay, so you'll see in the first section that you are expanding the definition of doing business with the city in order to include entities that receive doing business with entities that have received a grant of city-controlled funds. In section 2, there's an addition to impose additional regulation on lobbyists. There are a number of provisions throughout the document that you will see that are directed towards the lobbying activity. The state has determined that that is an activity that can unfortunately give rise to conflicts of interest on a somewhat frequent basis. In subsection E, use of the prestige of office, that definition has been expanded. That is a recommendation from the state. And this amendment that's at the bottom, page 3 of the ordinance, page 24 of your packet. In subsection 3, you will see that we changed the dates of the filing so that all of the dates would more efficiently coincide with the reporting cycle. You had separate dates in the ordinance before for the time when elected officials would file and the time when covered employees would file. So we brought those into conformance. We changed some language in subsection B about candidacies because you file declarations of candidacies rather than certificates of nomination. The state allowed local governments to create an exception from disclosures of the documents, of the financial disclosure forms themselves for home addresses. So we've incorporated that. And then you will see that in subsection E, contents of the statement, that whole statement has been revised. That was the section in which the city had the greatest dispute with the State Ethics Commission about the scope of the required disclosures. So this ordinance, among other things, requires you to disclose interest in real property wherever it's located rather than property that was in the city. Similarly, you have to disclose interests in corporation and partnerships wherever they're located and without regard to whether they do business with the city. Okay. The bottom of section 3 of the ordinance, which is on page 29 of your packet, page 8 of the ordinance, you will see that there's an additional disclosure. This is a addition that is more strict than the state model ordinance, requiring disclosure of whether the individual knows of clients or customers of his employer that have done business with the city during the reporting period. There are some parameters on that to narrow the disclosure. The name of the client or customer does not need to be included under certain circumstances. In section 4, we have added individuals to the list of covered employees who have to file short form financial disclosures, and we have increased the scope of the disclosures that those persons have to make. So they will, previously the form only required individuals such as myself to disclose whether we had received gifts or whether there was anything else we sort of on a voluntary basis wanted to disclose. So we have expanded the scope of disclosures that are required of the covered employees. It now will include the identity of entities doing business with the city with which the covered employee has done business, the identity of persons doing business with the city who is a relative of the official or employee or with whom that official employee is a close personal relative, the identity of any business entity in the city from which the employee receives or has received earned income, the identity of any person or entity for whom the filer has performed services during the reporting period that are substantially similar to services that the filer performs for the city for compensation. And again, you'll see that in new subsection F, we are excluding home address, a filer's home address from the information that will be disclosed when somebody requests to see a financial disclosure statement. In section 5, which starts at the very bottom of page 9 of the ordinance, page 30 of your packet, it looks like, it will look to you like there's an entirely new section there. But that is actually substantially the same as old 16-6. It's now 16-6.1. And this section is going to apply to members of boards and commissions. And it was intended so that their disclosure was not broadened by the new provisions we put into 16-6. And I believe that takes us to the end.
Mr. President?
The mayor's presiding.
Oh, sorry. I'm so used to
Gilbert?
saying Mr. President.
Ms. Gilbert?
I just have a couple things, and I guess this is where I would bring them up, and I think some of them are more typos than anything.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. So I noticed when we were listing in subsection A on page 29, listing all the positions of the directors.
Yep.
I think we overlooked our director of IT. So I would say that to be equal to all directors, should we not add our director of IT to that list?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. And then on page 28, somewhere, I've got to find it. Sorry, somewhere along in there, primarily of holdings of sticks. I believe we need stocks. Not that that's a huge deal. And then the very last question, or I guess thought that I have, is in subsection 9. Would it be better to say actual knowledge of?
You're in subsection 9 of which section?
Oh, line 2. Hold on a minute.
Page are you on? You probably just
Yeah,
find
hold
it.
on a minute.
29.
20, I think it's 20. What was it?
I think it's 29.
Thank you. There's so many pages.
20. Okay. Yes, I see where you are. Go ahead.
I just thought maybe actual knowledge of to be changed for the wording. Shoot, now I've lost that one. All right, we're just going to go with the first two until I can find the other one. Sorry, guys.
Okay, well, I think we probably started on this before Mr. Davison was a director, and that's probably why that's missing. So we just need to add that in there. I think all the directors should be in there. Obviously, I think that was just a matter of when this was started.
That is accurate.
Yeah, I figured it was an overlooked. I just noticed it when I read it, and I just wanted to make sure everybody was that we had fixed that before it went into final print.
And unless Councilwoman Gilbert is trying to protect a large portfolio of sticks, I think the change in stock is probably good. So that all sounds good to me. Does anyone else have anything to discuss?
One quick thing, Mr. Mayor. You know, if we're going to, instead of enumerating the positions, why don't we just say anyone who holds a director's position?
That's what I was thinking.
Because, you know, going forward, we may add or subtract. So I think it would be easier just to make it a very simple, anybody who's a director that holds that position. Just my suggestion.
I agree with that. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Well,
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. President.
since this is the public hearing section, portion of the meeting, I don't think we can amend anything at this moment. But can Ms. Levan be, making a note of all these things so that when we get to the item for adoption later on, we can incorporate all these things into the ordinance.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have any public comments for this? I don't think we do, right? Ms. Chiavacci?
There was one comment.
There was one comment. Do we want to read that now, or do we want to wait till the end for public comments?
We usually read it at the end before you close out the public hearing.
Okay. I mean, it's not consequential, I think, to what's in the ordinance at all. So that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we were doing it at the right time. So, and now I know we are, I guess the legislative body, the council tonight will be voting to adopt this. So are we going to be closing out the hearing tonight? Okay. Unless anyone else has anything else to say, we're going to close the public hearing so we can get things moving. Everyone agree? All right. Back to you, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have two items on the consent calendar tonight. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar, Mr. President.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion by Mr. Chiavacci and a second by Mr. Dehoff. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say
Aye.
nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the consent calendar is approved. The next item is a report from the mayor. Mr. Mayor.
No report from me tonight, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Standing committees. First, from our liaison to the Arts Council, Mr. Dehoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. We just wrapped up over at the Arts Council. We just wrapped up the hybrid Festival of Wreaths. Part of it was handled online, and another part of it was handled in person. It all went well. Adapt, engage, overcome. It all went well and was very successful. We're also going to do a Charlie Brown Jazz Christmas coming up Friday, December the 18th and December the 19th. Looks like there's going to be a couple of looks like there's going to be 2 showings on Saturday and 1 on Friday. They're going to practice social distancing. They're going to follow all of the health department guidelines and the CDC guidelines. And we're going to continue that tradition of having a Charlie Brown Jazz Christmas. We're going to have the Eric Bird Trio in, and it's going to be a good event, and we're all looking forward to that. We're looking forward to a little bit of cheer and some smiles for a difficult Christmas season. And I believe that's all my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dehoff. Economic and Community Development Committee, Mr. Yingling.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Yingling. I have no report for the Finance Committee. Ms. Gilbert, do you have a report for the Personnel Committee?
No, I do not.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Mr. Chiavacci, do you have anything for the Public Safety Committee?
I do. I'll be brief. Couple of quick things. One, crime is continuing to be low throughout the city, so that's a great report anytime we can make it. There was a little bit of confusion on a few folks' part. I received a couple communications related to a unfortunate murder that occurred. I wanted to be clear, that's outside of city limits. That occurred out near Westminster High School. That is not within the city of Westminster, nor will it be investigated by our city police department. City police department had a shop cop event over the weekend. It went really well. I know some pictures were posted on social media, so I'd like to compliment the chief and his department on a job well done there. They've also been very busy here of late with a lot of administrative things that are kind of behind the scenes. There's some changes at the federal level related to reporting that are pretty impactful to the daily operations of the department. So they've been working hard to address those changes. And one last thing, I know we're going to talk about it a little later, but I am excited to see that we have the MOU finally in front of us related to the dispatch. That's it, Mr. President.
Mr. President?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I would want to add one thing. I usually try to leave anything that's related to any of the committees up to the committee chair. But since we are doing things a little differently during the pandemic, we don't have the crowds we normally do when we swear in new officers. And I just did want to note that we swore in Major Richard Gibson this week, or I guess it was beginning of last week, so it was since the last meeting. But I know that council members and all weren't there. We only have like 3 people there when we do it. So I just wanted to say I had the honor of doing that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Works Committee, Mr. Yingling.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Yingling. Recreation and Parks, Mr. Dehoff.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed the a number of activities that the Rec and Parks has put together for us. In spite of the pandemic, we have I've really particularly enjoyed the gnomes for the holiday. Each day or so, it seems that a new gnome has appeared on Main Street between the railway tracks and Longwell Avenue, and that has been a lot of fun. The drive-through events for to see Santa and Mrs. Claus have been very popular and well attended, and there's a number of kids events. There's a lot of events. The Rec and Parks folks have worked extremely hard and to get a good rundown of what's been planned and what's taking place be best to go to the Rec and Parks website and get a list of all the family activities that are planned and have been really well received. That'll be it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Finally, finally, for the Technology Committee, I have no report as well. Move on now to council comments and discussion, a time when council members can bring up anything else that was not part of their committee reports. And we'll start with Mr. Chiavacci. Nothing from Mr. Chiavacci. Mr. Dayhoff.
I really appreciated the letter to the editor the other day, the op-ed about the Rec and Parks. I believe it was contributed by a citizen, Tom Gordon, in town, and we really appreciated we really appreciated that. Any attention to all the positive things that we're trying to do in the city are really appreciated. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Ms. Gilbert. Thank you. Nothing from Ms. Gilbert. Mr. Yingling.
Nothing for me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yingling. I would just like to, we don't have this on the agenda elsewhere, so I'd just like to take a moment now and bring this up without objection. The holiday season is coming upon us, and it's a time when we usually gather with city employees to enjoy some holiday luncheon. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that given the current circumstances. At the same time, we've got a lot of restaurants in downtown Westminster that are locally owned and operated that frankly are struggling. And I know we're all doing our best to try and do a little outdoor dining or carry out, but it's difficult for them, and we recognize that. And we've been wanting to do something as a city to be helpful. So after talking with the mayor and the council, what we'd like to do, and what I propose that we do tonight, is that we allocate up to $5,000 out of the city's reserves to purchase gift cards for city employees. We'd like to purchase gift cards for city employees and distribute them, to our employees from downtown restaurants, and encourage them to enjoy lunch on us or some evening or weekend when they have the time to visit some of these establishments and bolster them a little bit with their business, and enjoy the holiday season on us, and try and help out our local businesses. So if I may have a motion to that effect, we'd like to get that done right now, and then we can work with the staff to work out the details. Our goal will be to distribute the cards as soon as possible, although that may not be until right after the New Year's.
I'll move, Mr. President.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
move,
Chiavacci.
Mr. President.
And a motion by Mr. Chiavacci and a second by Ms. Gilbert. Is there any discussion?
Nope, great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. So thank you to all of our downtown restaurants for working hard to stay in business, and thanks to all of our city staff for the great job you've done throughout the year. I know we'll say more about that later, but this is a little thank you to you all.
Mr. President.
Mr. Dayhoff.
If I may, I was really remiss. We should really take this opportunity to thank the Public Works and the Street Department for all the work on the decorations. I've gotten a lot of really good positive feedback about the trees and the decorations that they've done. I know they take a lot of pride in doing that, and anything to brighten the Christmas season during the year of the pandemic is extremely well appreciated. So anything that brings people downtown, and thank you very much for bringing this forward, this initiative to help support the local restaurants. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. So next item on the agenda are bids. We have 3 bids tonight, and we will turn for the first one to Mr. Glass.
Yes, sir. The current capital projects fund includes funding for replacement of our sidewalk curb ramps to meet ADA specifications. This project consists of removal and replacement of various non-compliant curb ramps within all of our city streets inventory. As I'm sure you know, this is an ongoing project to meet ADA regulations and comply with the provisions of an interim Department of Justice agreement that we have that requires us to bring all the ADA curb ramps within the corporate boundaries of Westminster into compliance with federal standards. The RFB was issued on October 15th. Bids were due on November 19th, and we received 4. They ranged in as a low of $129,100 to a high of in excess of $200,000. City staff has evaluated the references in the bid from the low bid, ECM Corporation, in the total amount of $129,100 and finds it acceptable with regard to our needs. It should be noted as well that ECM was the successful contractor in last year's contract, and they did quite well. We were very pleased with their work. The funding for this project is, or budgeted, is $200,000. And the pricing for the scope of this work in the RFB is $129,100, as I mentioned earlier. But again, given the favorable pricing offered by ECM and our obligations to meet the Department of Justice agreement referenced earlier, we'd like to take additional curb work into play this year and address some of the other non-compliant areas up to that amount of $200,000. So as a result, we would recommend that the Mayor and Common Council accept the unit prices in this bid by ECM in Jessup, Maryland, and execute the contract in a not to exceed amount of $200,000 for the ADA curb ramp project, and authorize the mayor's execution of the associated documents. I'll have him answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. May I have a motion on this?
I make a motion that we accept the ECM Corporation as the company awarded for the bid, and that the rest of the money goes for the future curbs.
In other words, we accept the bid and the unit pricing. Thank you. Is there a second to Ms.
Yes.
Gilbert's motion?
Yes, thank you. Second.
There's a second by Mr. Dayhoff. Are there any questions from Mr. Glass or any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor of approving the bid with the unit pricing up to $200,000, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. And the bid is awarded. Thank you, Mr. Glass. And I believe the next one is yours on the parking garage.
Yes, sir. The current capital projects fund budget includes funding for repair of both city parking garages. Basically, the project consists of repair of double T elements and joint sealing, et cetera, at both garages, the Longwell and Westminster Square parking structures. The RFB was issued on October 1, and the bids were due on November 13th. We received 11 bids that ranged from $112,894 to in excess of $900,000. City staff has evaluated the references in the bid from the low bid of Consolidated Waterproofing Contractors, the total amount $112,894 even, which also includes an extended 3-year warranty. And of course, we find it to be acceptable with regard to the city's needs. Our total budget for this project is $140,000. And at this point, the staff would recommend that the Mayor and Council accept the unit prices bid by Consolidated Waterproofing Contractors of Beltsville, Maryland, and execute the contract in the amount of $112,894. If there are any questions,
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, there's a motion by Mr.
Second,
Dayhoff
Mr.
and a second by Ms. Gilbert. Is there any discussion or any questions for Mr. Glass?
I just have one.
Ms. Gilbert?
There's a huge range, Mr. Glass, between 112,000 and 910,000. Is there a particular reason why, or what was included? I don't know. That just seems like a huge gap for me. Not that I know anything about parking garages and building them, but.
So sometimes we see wide ranges like this. In some cases, it's as a result of maybe not completely understanding what the needs are in the RFB, and so as a result, the contractor will just pad the bid for excess money in the event that he would get it in the first place. Other times, it's just a matter of a low number, for instance, may be that someone who doesn't have a whole lot of work that They'll bid for a cheaper price just to keep their employees, in work for that part of the season. Other times it's could be a contract that has a whole lot of work, and so they'll throw a high number out there, and if they get it, then they'll just hire more employees for that particular job. So we see this at times. That is quite the spread, but the median is probably closer to the 138,000 or so as what it would appear. So just in a cursory view there. So we checked all the references, although we've never done any work with Consolidated. Everyone that we spoke with spoke very highly of them as well. So we're hoping to have that same kind of experience.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the contract is awarded. The third and final bid tonight is for the video surveillance system, and for that we'll turn to Chief Ledwell. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The FY21 Capital Projects Fund budget includes $70,000 for the purchase and installation of a video security system at 4 sites throughout the city. The planned camera system sites include the City Park, Locust Lane Plaza, the unit block of East Main Street, and the unit block of West Main Street. The request for proposals for the project was advertised on September 28th. We held a mandatory pre-bid meeting on October the 8th, at which time the prospective vendors walked to each of the 4 sites and were afforded the opportunity to ask questions of city staff. The bids were due by 2 p.m. on October 29th and were open and announced on the same date. We received 4 bids ranging from $24,821.69 to $100,578. These figures represented the total cost of equipment and installation of the same at the 4 sites referenced above. City staff, including our IT department, reviewed the 4 proposals. Follow-up in-person presentations were made by the firms on November 11th and 12th. Hyperion Incorporated and Hunt Consulting offered cloud-based solutions, while Advanos System and S3 Integration offered local server-based solutions with hardware infrastructure installed on site. The quality of the camera equipment proposed by each vendor appeared to be above average, and all of the systems will provide the needed capability to search and retrieve data. The evaluation panel rated each proposal based on the criteria outlined in the RFP. Hyperion Incorporated received the highest overall rating from the panel members and met all system requirements at the lowest cost. The panel contacted references provided by Hyperion Incorporated, which included the City of Tacoma Park, IBM, Greene County, Virginia School System, and General Services Administration. All references provided were positive in nature. The monies would be drawn from our adjudicated forfeiture account, and there will be some additional costs incurred to provide electricity at the installation sites. Staff is recommending that the mayor and council accept the bid of Hyperion Incorporated in the amount of $24,821.69 for the purchase and installation of a CCTV video surveillance system as specified in the firm's proposal, and authorize the mayor's execution of the associated contract.
All right. Thank you, Chief. May I have a motion to accept the bid?
I'll move, Mr. President.
All right. The motion by Mr. Chiavacci. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Second by Ms. Gilbert. Thank you very much. Any discussion or any questions for Chief Ledwell? Chief, I just have one question. It's a nice low bid. You've got more money budgeted for this. Were there any other sites you wanted to add while you were at it?
We do have some that we've been considering. We didn't plan and we didn't receive any estimates for those sites, but these funds are coming from the asset forfeiture funds, so I guess we could look at future additional sites.
Well, I would just suggest that if they're going to be up here doing the work, you might want to check with them ahead of time and see if they can give you a quick estimate on what it would take to add a site or two that you have in mind, and get back to us.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Chief. we're ready for the vote. We'll do that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the bid is awarded. Thank you very much, Chief. We'll move on now to the next item, which is ordinances and resolutions. We have several on the agenda here tonight. The first is for adoption of ordinance number 929, an ordinance amending Chapter 16, Code of Ethics, to incorporate changes in state law with respect to local ethics ordinances and to broaden the city's financial disclosure requirements for elected officials and candidates for elective office. We went through this during the public hearing, so I don't think we need to go through it again unless anybody really wants to. But I will just ask Ms. Levan, are you able to remind us of what the changes were that we identified during the public hearing that we'd like to make?
Yeah, so in sum, there were two sets of changes, some of which were intended to make the ordinance comply to the state model, both with respect to provisions the state had wanted you to incorporate from the original renovation.
I don't mean those. I mean the changes that were identified.
Oh, yes. So we have two proposed amendments from Councilwoman Gilbert. One of them is to include the director of IT, and I believe the decision was to, instead of specifying any of the department heads, to simply say all department heads of the city.
Right.
That is in section 16-6. Hold on, I'm scrolling. Yeah, so it's page 29 and 30 of your ordinance. So we would delete where it says the various directors and insert the directors and any deputy director or assistant director of a department. And then the other change was that there was a typo where it says sticks and should say stocks.
Right.
That would have been corrected, by the way, by your codifying company.
Right.
But we can make that change.
All right. So without objection, we will incorporate those changes into the ordinance that we will be voting on. And hearing no objection, that will be done. Is there any we've already had a motion for introduction. So
was there a motion?
So we need a motion for adoption. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dayoff and a second by Mr. Yingling. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. Thank you all for your cooperation in getting this done. It's glad that we've got this out of the way now. The next item is adoption of ordinance number 930, amending chapter 119 of the city code to eliminate reference to the Board of Housing Appeals, something we have not had in a long time. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 930?
I'll move, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Chiavacci and a second by Mr. Dayoff. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor of ordinance number 930, please signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes, I'm sorry, any nays? Hearing none, the ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. The next item is for adoption of emergency ordinance number 931, amending chapter 14, elections, to enhance the efficiency of the conduct of city elections and to strengthen the city's campaign finance regulations by requiring the appointment of a treasurer, requiring the reporting of all contributions without threshold, increasing a candidate's reporting requirements, and increasing the fines for certain election-related violations, to delete certain obsolete provisions, and to make other changes of the housekeeping nature. And for this, we will turn to our city clerk and clerk of elections, Ms. Visosky.
Thank you. So following several meetings of the election board, there were recommendations for several amendments to the charter and the city code that would be beneficial to voters and candidates while providing and increasing the efficiency of the conduct of elections of the city's policy and regulations. Beginning with ordinance number 931, In addition to the housekeeping amendments, the proposed ordinance provides for the following changes. Under declaration of candidacy, a beginning filing date was added, and the deadline to file was changed from 4 weeks to 6 weeks. The revision is intended to provide candidates with more time for campaigning while giving the voters additional time to learn about the candidates. Under campaign finances, this section now includes a requirement that a candidate nominate a campaign treasurer who shall keep a true and full record of all contributions and expenditures. Previously, the city required a separate campaign finance form to report that a candidate had not received campaign contributions exceeding $50. The Board of Elections recommended that use of this form be discontinued, with only one form used for all campaign contributions and expenditures. In addition, the board suggested cleaning up the filing dates of the campaign statements. Previously, the city code provided a range of these, whereas now there are specific dates that are provided. Under clerk of elections, language was added to this section to include provisions regarding absentee ballots. The purpose of the revision is to establish a policy for how the city clerk would distribute absentee ballots to voters upon receipt of a request for one. In addition, the filing deadline to request an absentee ballot was amended from 10 days prior to an election to the Monday prior to an election. The purpose of this revision is to allow voters more time to submit an absentee ballot request, especially for those with emergency situations. And then also, is it okay if I go ahead and just review resolution 20?
Sure, please do.
Okay. So for resolution number 20-15, the proposed city charter amendment resolution primarily implements the housekeeping and other amendments reflected in the proposed emergency ordinance number 931. I also wanted to let you know that Wendy Wraith, chair of the Board of Elections, is present if you want to ask any questions of her as well.
All right. Thank you very much. And let me say thanks to Ms. Wraith and the other members of the city's new Board of Elections for their work on this. We appreciate your contribution here. So let's start off. We have two items here that we have to deal with. One is the ordinance and the other is the charter amendment. So I think we're going to need motions on both of those. Let's take up the ordinance first. And this is an emergency ordinance for introduction and adoption tonight. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. President. And I'm always, we do it differently these days. We don't need a motion to facilitate an emergency.
Well, I think we do. I think we need a motion.
I think we do too.
Yeah, I think we need a motion to suspend the rules.
Let's make that motion. I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules of procedure for the purposes of adopting an emergency ordinance number 931. Thank you.
Right, which is a motion to suspend the rules and interfere with the immediate introduction and adoption. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
All right, and there's a second by Ms. Gilbert. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. All right, now we can move on, and now a motion to introduce is in order.
931, I'll make that motion.
All right, the motion by Mr. Dayhoff to introduce the emergency ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
The second by Ms. Gilbert. Thank you. All right, so now we'll turn to any discussion on this item. Who would like to be heard?
Mr. President.
Mr. Chiavacci.
So, I don't love, first of all, if Ms. Wraith is on the line, I'd like to thank her also and the committee for the work that they've done. I'm sure they've put a lot into this. I appreciate that. And I hope that any comments that I'm about to make won't be taken as a lack of appreciation. But I do have just a couple quick things. One, I hate the fact that we're doing this in an emergency situation because, I mean, these elections only happen every two years. So I guess I'm I wish we had a little more time. I didn't know about this until I opened my council packet up a couple days ago, and haven't had a chance to really spend much time talking to anyone or getting more information. So this is really the first time we're dealing with it. And while I don't think it's tremendously consequential in most of the changes, and the elections are certainly important, I don't love that we're doing it in this kind of rush fashion. However, I do have one issue with one item on here, and I'm confused as to why it's here. And I know Ms. Viscoski said that we might be able to ask Ms. Wraith as to what the thinking was, or maybe she can answer the question. But we have a form that says, hey, if you're not taking contributions, you fill the form out, you turn it in, and that's it. Well, I know for myself, I don't take campaign contributions. I haven't in the past, and I don't intend to in the future. I just choose not to, and that's my choice. I think there's nothing wrong with anybody who chooses to do so, but I don't. And I think it just seems like a silly drill for me to have to appoint a campaign treasurer to then say, I'm not taking any money. I mean, I guess I can do that, but I don't know why we want to do away with the ability for somebody like myself that wants to just say, I don't take any money. So here's my form saying I'm not taking any money. And it seems to me like we're eliminating that, and we're requiring a process to go through where we appoint a treasurer, and then the treasurer has to fill out a form that I think in my case is going to say didn't take any money. So that's kind of my only real comment on this. The rest of it I'm fine with, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chiavacci. Ms. Viscoski, can you share any information with us on the discussion about that, or perhaps Ms. Wraith could do that to better inform the council?
Wendy, do you want to take this, or?
Well, you start and I'll add if I need to.
Okay. So basically, Tony, what we were trying to do is just basically make the forms just a little more simpler, because a lot of feedback that I got from a lot of candidates, they said how complicated it was, and it was confusing, especially with all the way the due dates and things like that were. So we just try to really simplify the overall form, which I can send to you of what we all have. I can actually plan to send to everyone as far as what we did come up with. But as far as the treasurer goes and adding that in, I don't know if Ms. Levon has any suggestions of, is there a different way to word that possibly? I don't really know.
That's a policy.
Right. If somebody decided not to use, I guess what I'm asking is if he had no contributions, I don't know if there's a way to address that.
Well, right now, the ordinance, in addition to requiring the appointment of a treasurer at the time that the candidate files their declaration of candidacy, it requires all expenditures in furtherance of the candidate's campaign to be made by or at the direction of the treasurer, because that's the reason you appoint a treasurer. So changes could be made to exclude from the scope of this section candidates who don't accept contributions from third parties. I have no preference. I wrote what I understood to be requested of me. I can make whatever changes. It's a policy decision for the council, in my view.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Sure, please do.
I feel like it's making it easier for us to have a paper for each and every candidate. And so if you don't accept any money, just very quickly write that on a piece of paper. Maybe you can get a treasurer to write the same thing. It shouldn't take very long. But I'm trying to help the integrity of the election. That is the biggest thing we're thinking about.
Right. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this?
Mr. President?
Mr. Mayor?
So my understanding of the forms, Mr. Chiavacci, is just, I think it's just two forms are becoming one. So I don't think that's really changing the procedure. It's just two forms are merging. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. Although I think everyone would probably like to see that form just to see what that means in reality. And But the treasurer, I guess one point I want to bring up, because this isn't something I've thought of until this moment. I mean, as a treasurer, I thought, honestly, when I ran, I thought you needed a treasurer, so I just had one. So I didn't even know it was an option. But they also record like every expenditure that you make and where you spend your money. So I don't know, Mr. Chiavacci, you might have your campaign flags and signs from years ago. You maybe didn't spend any money in the last election. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know the importance of that. I'm just bringing it up as a topic. So I just know that I've only done it one time, and I don't remember all the details, but I believe I filled out contributions and expenditures. So the importance of that, I mean, it should be weighed in, but I don't have a I don't have like a strong opinion on this. I just wanted to bring that up.
Right. Well, the old forms did have a place for contributions and another place for expenditures. That's for sure. Mr. Dale, did you look like you were seeking recognition?
Yeah, and I'm not remembering it well. If someone could refresh my memory, don't we need an authority line?
We do not under current.
Because I've always used one, but I've always used the state rules as much as possible.
Yeah, we don't have a requirement, nor do we have a requirement for an account. As the state does, to set up
Did that too.
A separate bank account for.
I have a separate account, and I use an authority line.
Right. But
I wonder.
There's no requirement to do either of those things.
I wonder. I'm surprised that we don't require an authority line, and I think that we should probably address that.
I don't know what an authority line is, but I will say that I was under the impression when I ran both times that I needed a second account. So
yeah,
I had a treasurer and a second account. I don't know if that's important, not important in municipal election, but that was what I was told. I don't remember by whom, but and I do remember the expenditures and the line. I believe it was 3 different sets where you included what you received and what you spent.
President?
For your campaign.
You're muted, but you said Mr. Mayor, I could tell. Ms. Gilbert, so the authority line is simply at the bottom of any ad or anything like that says, this was paid for or approved by that, it's worded differently depending on how you see it, but that's all that is. I also thought we needed one of those. So I had those all myself. I think a lot of this stuff is just best practice anyway. So I think for protection of the people that are running, probably stuff that we would want anyway. But that's just, again, my non-legal opinion. We'll leave that to Ms. Levan and whoever represents any of us to get in trouble. But a lot of it just sounds like best practice to me and stuff that should be done. Like, I think if you're going to run an ad, you should have an authority line. And I don't know, some of this, and I guess this is the question, Ms. Levan, is some of this, superseded by the state board? Do we get to make all of our own decisions on this? I wasn't sure.
Almost all. There are 1 or 2 provisions, state law not implicated here, that apply across the board. But you get to make virtually all of the decisions about how local elections are run. We did not in this change address separate accounts or authority lines. So if that is not in your existing law, this won't change that. We can, if it's the will of the council, we can certainly make additions that do that.
Mr. President.
I have a question. Is there a form or a piece of...
Ms. Gilbert, I'm sorry, I just recognized Mr. Dayhoff.
I'm not sure what to do. The election board wants us to adopt this evening.
Well, so I asked the city clerk what the timeline was here, because it was introduced as an emergency ordinance, and the reason for that is because, of course, we don't have another regular meeting, before the end of the year. The next regular meeting will be in the middle of January, and as I understand it, the clerk's concern is that after the first of the year, people are already asking questions, and people are going to be wanting to start filing and things like that, and we want to be ready for the new year and for people to be able to start engaging in the electoral process. I think that there are some questions here that I think we would benefit by a couple of days of being able to look at some of these things. And I think an authority line is a good idea, for example, and we ought to figure out where that should go and some things like that. If the council's willing, I'm certainly willing to schedule a special meeting to try and take this up a little later and get this done before the end of the year. I think we could do that and give Ms. Levan and others a chance to figure out where some of these things would properly fit in and how we would like to do it. But I await the council's pleasure on this.
Mr. President,
Mr. Dehoff.
I'd like to see a separate account. I'd like to see an authority line. I'd like for us to discuss this a little bit before we adopt it this evening. I can remember when you and I were in office before, we had a meeting on Christmas Eve one time. So I'm perfectly willing to have another meeting when it's appropriate. But and I guess what this is the second time we've had emergency legislation concerning the elections. I'm with Councilman Chiavacci on this. I think that it needs to be a little bit more well measured and thoughtful in our approach to this. Maybe after the next election, maybe we can form a committee and take a really good look at our election laws and see if there's anything else that needs to be addressed. But I don't like doing it at the last minute like this. I do not.
I think that's a good thought. I think what we need is perhaps after the next election, ask the elections board, which will then have an election under its belt, so to speak, to come back and visit with us again and share with us what they've learned and what they think would be some good changes. So I think we should plan on doing that soon after the next election rather than waiting until too much later. But without meeting on Christmas Eve, I think we can get this done before the end of the year.
Okay. But I'm with the mayor. I mean, a lot of this is best practices that all of us have followed as a part of tradition in the community. But as the community grows, as the community gets larger, and there are many folks who don't know our history and traditions, and maybe we need to codify them. I mean, I can't imagine having an advertisement out there or a piece of election literature without an authority line.
Right. I think Ms. Wraith wanted to weigh in one more time.
I do want to say that Shannon went and talked to a lot of different cities that are about the same size as ours. So a lot of that information, we all got together and we spoke about it. And that's how all of this came about.
Right. That's good to know. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Mayor.
I'll say one thing. So I largely agree with Mr. Dehoff. The one thing, and I don't know, I don't even know if he meant it, but I don't think we need to form another committee. I think the election board.
Okay.
We put that together right before actually your election, just to help. So this is really, they've been around for like less than 2 years. So that's probably why things are just kind of coming to us now. And the pandemic. I mean, I did talk to Ms. Chiavacci about some of this stuff, but that was like over a year ago, right? And then everything kind of happened. But I did want to take some time. I think the work our city clerk's doing is good to get as Westminster grows. I think this is all really good stuff, and it provides clarity and transparency. And it's really largely stuff like we're talking, stuff we're pretty much all doing one way, shape, or form anyway. So I think this is good. I just wanted to thank her. I guess we'll figure out when we want to discuss when we pass and sign it. But I think that's a good step. I just wanted to say that. I want to thank her.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree with that. I think what I was suggesting was not that we need a committee, but that we just need some engagement with the Board of Elections.
It was poorly worded on my part, but that's what I meant, to have the election committee do it. Sometimes I'm rusty on Robert's rules, and we can just go ahead and table this.
What I would suggest is rather than table it, we just postpone it to a special meeting, which we will hold, and get this done before the end of the year, so that Ms. Chiavacci will have the rules in place that she needs to be able to administer the election.
Okay.
So without objection, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
And we will work with everybody to find a date prior to the end of the year.
And then in the meantime, I'll go ahead and send everyone the forms, so that way you can also see how the
that would be
forms are set up that we are proposing. So
that'd be terrific.
Okay.
The I don't know if you all had a chance to take a look at the charter amendments, which seemed they have a little bit different nature. I don't think there's anything at all controversial in the charter amendments. Those are mostly housekeeping things. You're getting rid of some language that is outdated because of actions that the state has taken on voter registration and things like that. So if it's okay with, I think that's good to go ahead and move forward so that Ms. Viskowski can do all the advertising she needs to do and be able to get that ready for the new year. So perhaps we can move on to that one and get that one done if nobody has any objections. So I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules that interfere with the immediate introduction and adoption. Oh, we don't need that for the charter amendment?
No, you can't do it.
Can't
Oh, we
do that.
can't do that.
No.
Yeah,
can't do
you
the
need to
charter amendment?
you need to introduce it. You need to advertise it for 3 weeks.
All right,
The
so we're just
earliest you're going to be
introducing-
able to adopt it is the beginning of January, and then it's going to take 50 days until it's
Right.
effective. So,
All right, so we're just introducing the charter amendment.
yeah.
That's correct.
All right, good. So then may I have a motion to introduce the charter amendment?
Let's go ahead and introduce it. I make that motion.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Dayoff and a second by Mr. Yingling. I don't think we need any discussion on this. Is there any, may I take a vote? All those in favor of introduction of the charter amendment, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. So the charter amendment is introduced, and the city clerk can move forward with the things she needs to do on that.
Thank you.
And that disposes with that item. The next item is adoption of resolution number 20-13, a resolution modifying the strategic plan and priority projects for the city of Westminster, 2018-2021. Ms. Matthews.
Thank you, President Pecoraro. As the Mayor and Common Council likely remember, at your meeting on September 14th of this year, Councilmember Yingling, in his capacity as Chair of the Public Works Committee, recommended to you that the city develop a formal strategy to address the city's sewer capacity constraints. Councilmember Yingling further recommended that the Mayor and Common Council incorporate the elements of that agreed upon strategy in the city's adopted strategic plan. The Mayor and members of the Public Works Committee met on October 2nd to discuss this matter. They discussed and agreed upon the key elements of the city's strategy to address our sewer capacity constraints. The resolution before you this evening, resolution number 20-13, formalizes the key elements of that strategy as recommended by the Mayor and the members of the Public Works Committee. If you look at page 218 of your packet, the changes to the strategic plan that are proposed this evening are highlighted in yellow. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have, and perhaps Councilmember Yingling might like to make some comments as well, since I worked with this language in conjunction with him.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Matthews. Mr. Yingling, do you have anything you'd like to add? I know we appreciate you bringing these matters up some months ago.
Yeah, I'll be brief. So I just want to thank Ms. Matthews for helping us out with this. Thanks to the council for being supportive. You know, the first time, right after I was elected, you know, I took a tour of all of our facilities with Mr. Glass, and became really apparent. This was only a couple weeks after the election, or that I took office. I'm sorry, that these were like really big issues. So just want to thank the council for being supportive of not only our water reuse initiative, but also recognizing that the sewer, you know, is really a hard stop issue. And there's just kind of 4 areas that I wanted to address. I'll just go over them really quickly. Because the whole idea of this was like to give the roadmap to future councils and really develop a strategy. So the first one is obviously to fund inflow and infiltration pretty much in perpetuity. Like that's never going to go away. You know, I mean, the second is really like recognizing, you know, that we're going to need to re-rate that wastewater treatment plant. We always want to keep that on our mind, you know, and when is the right time to do that. The third is, you know, recognizing that, you know, in 30, 40, 50 years, I mean, barring any like brand new technology that comes out, we might have to be building another plant. So let's keep that on our mind as well. But I think going back to the technology is, you know, we've garnered like national attention from, you know, some areas about like what we're doing with water reuse. And I think like having the city just, you know, be committed to exploring those new technologies that'll help with these issues, you know, hopefully help with the sewer issue. You know, 50 years from now, hopefully we have something we don't have to build another plant, because some magical technology comes out that we can utilize, and just being on the forefront and being committed to open-minded about those technologies, much like MDE has been with our water reuse project. So that's all, Mr. President. I really appreciate everybody being on board with this.
Right, thank you, Mr. Yingling. Is there any, may we have a motion then for, well, I guess this is for adoption. Yes, motion for adoption. Mr. Yingling, motion by Mr. Yingling, second by Ms. Gilbert. Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Thank you, Ms. Matthews and Mr. Yingling, for this important change to our strategic plan. Next item is adoption of the long-awaited Bee City resolution. We can adopt this, and then we can dispense forever with the bee jokes, I hope. So this is resolution number 20-14, a resolution designating the city of Westminster, Maryland as a Bee City USA affiliate. Ms. Matthews.
Thank you again. On September 28th, 2020, Kate Fisher of the Carroll County Beekeepers Association made a presentation to the Mayor and Common Council about Westminster obtaining a Bee City USA certification. The Mayor and Common Council subsequently agreed to pursue the designation of the City of Westminster as a Bee City USA affiliate, and the resolution that is before you this evening is the first step in that process. As required by the Bee City USA program, staff did submit a draft of resolution number 20-14 to the Bee City USA program for review prior to bringing the resolution before you this evening. Bee City USA has approved the city's proposed resolution for adoption by the Mayor and Common Council this evening. I did want to mention that the Bee City USA program is in the process of launching a new website. And as a result, its application system is on hold until January of 2021. Once we do hear that their application process is once again operational, staff will submit a copy of the adopted resolution along with the required program application and the $200 fee. So at this time, staff does recommend that the Mayor and Common Council adopt resolution number 20-14.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews. May I have a motion?
I will be happy to make a motion to go ahead and recommend that we adopt the resolution 20-14, designating the City of Westminster as a Bee City USA affiliate.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt by Ms. Gilbert, second by Mr. Dayhoff. Is there any further discussion on this? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor of adopting the resolution, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Thank you all very much. The final item tonight on this category is introduction of Charter Amendment Resolution number 20-15, a Charter Amendment Resolution of the Mayor and Common Council of the City of Westminster concerning. Oh, is this the same as the other?
Yeah, we already did that one.
We already did this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. We already took this up. All
Sorry
right.
about that.
We took them up together. All right. Very good. So we'll move on now to unfinished business. First item, or the only item here, is amended development plan DP-20-01, Carroll County Commerce Center, designated condominium unit 7 for a convenience store with gasoline pumps use to develop a Royal Farms convenience store pursuant to City of Westminster zoning ordinance, Article 12, Section 164.75.d, and Article 23. And for that, we will turn to Mr. Depot.
Thank you and good evening. Just as a reminder, the Mayor and Common Council did hold a public hearing on DP 2001 on September 14th of 2020. The Mayor and Common Council agreed to close the public hearing record at 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, September 22nd. The Mayor and Common Council also directed staff to further review the Department of Community Plan Development's recommendation for DP 2001, which was to depict the required right-of-way to accomplish a 110-foot ultimate right-of-way for Route 97, consistent with the city comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinance, and a State Highway Administration June 2011 concept design and report. and then to report back to the elected body. So staff did review the Maryland route right-of-way request, and such request may be considered a taking requiring just compensation. So in other words, to move forward with requiring the right-of-way, we would look at a just compensation for that right-of-way. Furthermore, staff did meet with other city staff members, Carroll County staff, and state highway staff regarding the Route 97 right-of-way. Although all parties agreed that the 97 requires additional right-of-way for needed improvements, Carroll County and State Highway do not have funding to compensate the applicant for the needed right-of-way. So again, if we move forward with that, compensation is necessary, but there is no money, as you can imagine right now, or plans to further improve 97 at this time. It is a high priority that we have met with the state about and the county, but again, as of now, the funding just isn't there. So with that, staff is recommending that the Mayor and Common Council approve development plan DP 2001, Carroll County Commerce Center. And with that, if there are any questions, I'm available to for that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Depot. So let's get this before us properly. May I have a motion to adopt the amended development plan?
I'll move, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chiavacci. May I have a second? May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Is there any discussion on this item?
Mr. President.
Mr. Yingling.
So from the public hearing and what we heard from the applicant, they were very surprised with this right-of-way request. According to them, they're going to have to redo the entire site plan. So first off, let me confirm with Mr. Depot that if we require this right-of-way, that their whole stormwater management is going to have to be moved. Sorry, I just muted myself. I just want to confirm that, okay, they're going to have to redo all their stormwater management, and that will require like a whole new site plan. Is that right?
I don't agree with the applicant in this case. The stormwater management, there is one portion of stormwater management in the right-of-way. Several areas of stormwater management located outside. Also, this property itself, there is additional land for this property. After talking to Carroll County stormwater management folks, that they believe that the stormwater management could be located elsewhere on the parcel. The issue here, however, though, is that the larger parcel, Unit 7, only a portion of it is being leased by Royal Farm. So that becomes the issue. Any more stormwater management or relocation would be off of the leased area of Royal Farm, but still on Unit 7. A little confusing, but again, that's not so much a city issue, it's more of the applicant, but that would possibly could cause a redesign if they don't want to expand the leased area, which I could imagine they've been in contract talks with and have been working with the Royal Farms for quite some time. That could certainly change the site if they're limiting themselves to that leased area. Again, confusing. I'm sorry, but this is a confusing case.
Okay, so follow-up question. You talk about just compensation. I mean, so we require this right away. The state and the county are like, oh yeah, this or whatever the law says. Oh yeah, well, this is like taking of land, so you know they should be compensated. And the states, Maryland and county, are like, well, we don't have any money to compensate them. Well, the applicant's probably going to want to be compensated. So then where does that fall? Ms. Levin?
The applicant is going to want to be compensated, and the target of that request for compensation is going to be the city. The state has indicated that it has no present plans to improve that area, even though most people would agree that it is necessary to do, but you would be on the hook for compensating them for the value of that land. And that is not an insignificant amount of money.
Okay. Then, and I don't know if this is appropriate to have this conversation in this form. So with that being said, Mr. Levin, is this the appropriate time to have that conversation among us?
How can I say this? If you're going to ask me about the legal ramifications of taking that particular action, I would suggest that you do that in closed session.
I'd like to consult with counsel on the legal ramifications of taking this action.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I tend to agree with Councilman Yingling. I made the motion so we could discuss it because my intention was to have a similar conversation in terms of if the state and the county are basically saying they're not going to do anything and they're not going to compensate them. I don't really see how we can force this issue without some more discussion, some more understanding of where this is going to leave us. So yeah, I think we need to do that.
All right. I'd say I agree. I think that we need to understand our position before we can take this action, because there are obviously some very significant ramifications to it.
Mr. President.
Mr. Dehoff.
I agree also. Didn't we discuss it if my memory is serving me correctly, won't the State Highway Administration indemnify us for the costs of, they won't? Well, this is for a greater public good far beyond the city of Westminster. It's not good public policy to have this this isn't good public policy at all.
So let me ask this question, Mr. Depot. The recommendation says depict the required right-of-way to accomplish a 110-foot ultimate right-of-way. Are we requiring that the applicant reserve that right-of-way, or just that they depict it on drawings?
I'd be asking.
And what would be the difference between the two things?
I'd be asking that they reserve the right-of-way, that they would show the actual right-of-way location, ultimate right-of-way. By the ordinance itself, setbacks and everything come off of the ultimate right-of-way. So in this case, we'd ask for them to reserve that right-of-way, which then would lead to, as Ms. Levan mentioned, just compensation, other issues. I think the concern here would be, I think what staff was recommending, whether approve it, we'd also recommend a denial. I think it would be, we are not recommending that we add that condition at this time because of the legal issues that I think the board should discuss further with Ms. Levan.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you say that again?
So initially, we requested that as a condition that they would depict the right-of-way.
Mm-hmm.
But my understanding are that there are other more appropriate actions to take if that was the ultimate goal of the Mayor and Common Council to obtain this right-of-way, that requesting it as a condition wouldn't be the proper path.
So the item that I see says that the recommendation is to depict the required right-of-way.
No, I'm sorry. That's what it was. That's the recommendation at the time of public hearing. I apologize. There was a memo that was provided that doesn't look like it got to the Mayor and Common Council.
Now, see, we're not looking at the recommendation we have before us doesn't have, is this memo, as I understand it.
Yeah. So initially on September 14th with the public hearing, that was the condition that we had requested to be placed for approval. Since that time, and after further discussion with other city staff, Carroll County and State Highway, we've moved off of the air stance on requiring the 110-foot ultimate right-of-way at this time. And either two motions would be: one, just approve the plan absent the right-of-way, just approve it as is, and in hopes in the future to obtain that right-of-way when needed, and incur possible additional cost having to move stormwater management and other elements. Or the other option would be to deny the application and then move forward at looking at obtaining that right-of-way.
Mr. President.
Present.
Mr. Chiavacci.
Yeah, so in light of that, that's different than what we had here. Basically, I think we can move forward and approve it and basically tell them they can go ahead and move forward with their site plan as is, because unless we're going to put ourselves in a position where we could potentially be on the hook by saying they have to reserve that space, I think that's a mistake at this point. And if later down the road, the state decides that they need to expand that road, that becomes their issue in terms of figuring out how they're going to get the right of way and purchasing land to do it. That's not something the city is going to be parcel to, because it's a state highway. It's not a city road. So, I think we've held this developer up long enough that they want to move forward with this project. If I understand what Mr. Depot is saying, one of the options in front of us is that we basically approve it as is without requiring the right of way or requiring that they reserve that land for the right of way. And if that's the case, I'm willing to make a motion. That's the direction we move in tonight and just get it done.
All right, so the real staff recommendation, to be clear, is that the mayor and council approve the development plan amendment DP 20-01, Carroll County Commerce Center, with no conditions. Just that we approve the development plan amendment.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
I'm willing to move for that, Mr. President.
All right. So, well, we have a motion, which, Mr. Dayhoff, did you understand your motion to be that we just approve the site plan amendment, or that we, or the development plan amendment, or that we approve it with that condition?
I'm not exactly sure, but I like what Councilman Chiavacci said.
All right. So then,
I want my motion to be consistent with that, because he made sense to me.
All right. How about this? So then, without objection, we're going to allow Mr. Dayhoff to withdraw his motion. And without objection, it is so ordered. And now we will allow Mr. Chiavacci to make his motion.
Yes.
Mr. Chiavacci?
Mr. President, I'll go ahead and move that we approve the site plan as presented to us initially, with no other encumbrances or requirements for them to withhold any land for right of way.
Second.
Yes.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Chiavacci and a second by Mr. Yingling to approve development plan amendment DP-20-01, Carroll County Commerce Center.
Mr. President.
Any further, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, so Mr. Chiavacci said a lot of what I was going to say, but I did have one question. In what was the proposed right of way, what is being built there? Is it just stormwater management, or is there some immovable object that's going there? The reason I say that is because my thinking is we have held this this developer up. I think state's saying they have no plans to build anything there. I think we've done our due diligence. The only question I have is part of a building going there? Is it just stormwater management? Because at the end of the day, the state wants to build something in 10, 20, 30 years. They can do it. And the state has a lot more money than we do to pay for the changes. And that's fine. But I just want to make sure there's not something like really big and permanent, because I support moving forward and just approving this otherwise.
I hope it's more like 10 years, but with that, no, there are not. There's the stormwater management and parking spaces. The building itself is located outside the right of way.
Okay, then I fully support moving forward and improving this.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, we can move on to a vote on the new motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve the development plan amendment, say aye.
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 Those say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. And the motion is adopted. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure. We will move on now. That concludes the unfinished business. We have 4 items of new business. The first is council confirmation of the mayor's appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we are going to be appointing, let me make sure I get everybody here. I want to go in the right order. Okay, I'm going to start with Mr. Tyler Cott, who we're going to be appointing to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I know I sent his information out to everybody. I got some feedback, all positive from what I got. But just a quick introduction to Tyler, Mr. Cott. I don't have the usual paragraph introduction. He did, just like a CPA would, send me a statement of qualifications. So he is, I just mentioned, he's a CPA. He works at a local firm here as a business advisor, consultant, and tax evaluation accountant. He's also very involved in the community. He's a treasurer for Carroll Incorporated. He's a treasurer for the Historic Society of Carroll County, and he's a member of the Carroll Hospital Endowment Fund Committee. And he's obviously he's a resident in the city. He's a local business owner as well, and he wants to get more involved. And I think this is a good way. And I think his qualifications will be helpful to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to say.
All right.
Mr. President, very briefly.
Mr. Chiavacci.
I'd just like to compliment the mayor. I think this is a great choice. Really good job. I think we're getting somebody with substantial, and it's going to add a lot of value for hopefully a long time, because we're getting him at a young age. And I did do some inquiring about him in the community, and it was all stellar. So great work on this appointment.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chiavacci.
And I believe
any further discussion? Hearing none, may I have a motion to advise and consent to the mayor's appointment?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. England, second by Mr. Chiavacci. Hearing no further discussion, move on to a vote. All those in favor of the appointment, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. And Mr. Cobb is approved. Mr. Mayor.
And I did the one thing I left out. I probably should have said this before he is approved, but he's appointed for the term expiration of December 14th, 2025. So if everyone still agrees. And then also, I think most of you, if not all of you, are familiar. He was appointed before a couple of you were on the council, but a reappointment of Mr. Ross Albers with a term expiration of December 14th, 2025. He has been serving as the chair of the board. He is an attorney. I think his experience in legal matters is, if you guys have been keeping an eye on the planning and zoning or watching anyway, has been a real asset. I feel like it's helped him ask the right questions and hold people to things they say, I think, when it's important. So he's again reappointed for term expiration of December 14th, 2025. You also may know him as a celebrity. He got dunked in an ice bath when Councilman Yingling came through the Boys and Girls Club and won a contest. So Mr. Albers did spend some time in icy cold water for a great charity in the community. So, but yeah, I'd like to reappoint him as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll move, Mr. President.
I have a motion to approve the mayor's appointment by Mr. Chiavacci. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gilbert. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. And the appointment is confirmed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Move on now to, let's see, what's next? Next item is approval of a contract change order number 4 for HRI. Mr. Glass.
Yes, sir. I'm sure you'll recall in early 2019, the council awarded construction contract to HRI for the wastewater treatment plant, ENR, and biosolids upgrade project. In addition, the city contracted with GHD for ongoing engineering services during that construction, and by separate contract, the city retained GHD to provide construction management and inspection services for the duration. To date, we've authorized 3 change orders to the city's contract with HRI, and they're totaling $1,090,178.35. It's just under 1% so far of the total contract cost. And that was, of course, includes all of change orders 1, 2, and 3, which are qualified for the state's cost share eligibility. Change order number 4 acts to balance additions and credits to the project to date. And I'll go over the additions first and then the deduct last. The first one is work related to the relocated stream crossing. And you may recall that BGE made a redesign in their electrical or commercial power feed. And so there were additional costs for the resulting relocation of the transformer pad. If you're following along, it's PCO 13 to the cost of $23,152. The second one is additional supports found necessary for the live bottom hopper. That's PCO 14 at a cost of $12,784. The next ad is the replacement of 4 nitrate recycle pump supports. That's PCO 15 at a cost of $13,293. The next ad is some air piping modifications for reactors 3 and 4. It's PCO 16 at a cost of $10,093. The next one is the next ad is for the installation of clarifier drive replacements. You'll recall in our last last council meeting, this was discussed and approved at that time. This is for the installation of 2 clarifier drive replacements. Was not part of the ENR project, but this is to be paid for out of the city's operating funds. And if you're following along, it's PCO 25. That cost was $97,211. The next one follows along with PCO 25. It's PCO 26, but that was to install the pre-purchase clarifier control gates. And again, much like the earlier statement, this one is not going to be part of the ENR project, but is to be paid for out of the operating funds as well, to the tune of $65,830. Those two were both discussed and approved at the last council meeting. The last addition is a fire retardant thin film top coating for the support structure under the belt filter presses. That's PCO 34 to the cost of $5,351. There is an offsetting reimbursement item included in this change order that acts as a deduct. It's PCO 28, and it provides for a equipment testing credit of $17,100. Unfortunately, the testing was to occur at the manufacturer's testing facility, but because of the COVID-19 restrictions, that's no longer a viable option for us. So we took the credit for the required testing. And again, that was a deduct of $17,100. So if we take into account the deduct and the net cost of change order 4 is $210,614. And with the exception of the cost for PCOs 24 and 25 of $163,041, change order 4 is subject to the state cost share eligibility. Again, it's 53.65%. At this point, the staff recommend the Common Council authorize the mayor to execute change order number 4, the total amount of $210,614 to the city's contract with HRI. And I know that was a lot to discuss in such a short time, so if there are questions, I'd be pleased to answer those.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Glass. May I have a motion?
I make a motion that we go ahead with the contract change order number 4.
All right, thank you.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion by Ms. Gilbert and a second by Mr. Dayhoff. Are there any questions from Mr. Glass or any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor of approving HRI contract change order number 4, please say aye.
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 The ayes seem to have it. And any opposed? Please say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the contract change is approved. Next item is approval of Warner Construction change order number 20. Ms. Matthews and Mr. Glass.
Thank you, President Pecoraro. I'll just provide a brief summary, and certainly Mr. Glass and I would be happy to answer any questions. Change order number 20 is comprised of 3 separate items. The first is the installation of 4 panic buttons and associated equipment and wiring and connections. This item was requested by city staff. The remaining two items include ductwork revisions on the first floor and certain revisions to the CT cabinet layout. Both the ductwork revisions and the CT cabinet layout revisions were prompted by issues encountered during construction. They're described in, all these items are described in more detail in your agenda packet. Combined, they have a cost of $16,840.74. And I would note that change order number 20 will not change the contract time for completion. So the first item, the panic buttons, is discretionary. The other two items, the ductwork revisions and the CT cabinet layout revisions, are not discretionary. So with that, Mr. Glass and I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, on approving change order?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Made a motion by Mr. Yingling. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Chiavacci. Any discussion or any questions from Ms. Matthews or Mr. Glass? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor of approval of Warner Construction change order number 20, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes seem to have. The ayes have it, and the change order is approved. Next item is approval of the contract with Katz & Associates for strategic counsel and support services for the public information education component of the Westminster Water Reuse Initiative. Ms. Matthews and Mr. Glass again.
Thank you, President Pecoraro. Back in September of 2019, the Mayor and Common Council awarded a contract to Katz & Associates to provide public information and education services for the Westminster Water Reuse Initiative. Services provided under that contract included, among other things, some public opinion research, meeting with up to 25 community stakeholder leaders to kind of gather input, meetings with city staff to discuss the outcomes of both those processes. And probably the primary deliverable that kind of wrapped up all these items was the development of a communications plan to inform how the city should engage the various target audiences. I would note that Katz & Associates has completed the scope of work. The request for proposals to which Katz and other firms responded included a provision for firms to provide pricing for certain optional services. One of those optional services was to give us pricing to provide strategic counsel and support for a period of 1 year on an hourly basis, basically to help us implement the strategic communication plan that was developed through the initial contract. When we brought this item forward to you in the fall of 2019, the city did not elect a contract for those optional services. It was our feeling at this time that we were just starting the water reuse initiative. There were still a lot of questions about how that was going to advance with the state, and staff thought it would be ill-advised to make that level of financial commitment given how early we were in the process for the water reuse initiative. Now that the initiative is progressing, and I know Mr. Glass can certainly provide an update on where we're at with launching the pilot project, staff believes that the city should go ahead and exercise the option in Katz's contract for the strategic counsel and support services to help us move forward with actually implementing the draft communications plan. As reflected in your agenda materials, the maximum contract cost for the item before you this evening is $113,350. This amount is less than the $130,110 that was included in the firm's proposal dated July 16, 2019. Mr. Glass and I have worked with Katz over the duration of their initial contract to refine what we felt was needed and what work should be performed by which party. Mr. Glass, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, ma'am. I think you've covered it quite well.
Okay. The one thing, President Pecoraro, that Mr. Glass and I have talked about extensively, and I did just want to call to your attention, the water fund budget includes $250,000 for all the activities related to the water reuse initiative. As you likely all recall, we do have an ongoing contract with Watech Engineering to help us. The Mayor and Common Council have also approved a Cranberry Reservoir study, which you authorized back in September. And you also recently authorized a contract with the National Research Center. So all of these items are basically hitting the same budgetary line item. Mr. Glass and I are uncertain exactly how much will be hitting the city's books in FY 2021. But we did just want to call this to your attention because we do have a number of different contracts hitting the same budgetary line item. I would note that through Mr. Glass's efforts and those of his staff, we have secured a United States Bureau of Reclamation grant fund, the receipt of which has not been recognized through the budget amendment process. So it's very hard for us to tell you whether or not all these various costs will be absorbed within the existing appropriation for 2021. It's just really going to be a matter of timing. So with that background, staff does recommend that the Mayor and Common Council approve a supplemental contract with Capps and Associates in the not to exceed amount of $113,350 to provide strategic counsel and support services for the Westminster Water Reuse Initiative.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Matthews. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Mr. Dale, a second by Ms. Gilbert. Any further discussion or any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote.
Mr. President, I have one real quick one.
Yes,
I
Mr.
apologize. I just want to be sure all of this is coming out of water sewer funds, none out of general, correct?
That is correct. We
Thank
have
you.
these expenses to be related to the development of the new water source, so it's all water fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chiavacci. We're ready. We'll move on to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The last item under new business is on a motion to go into closed session. And for that, turn to Mr. Chiavacci.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion under the statutory authority to close the session under the Maryland Annotated Code Provisions, Article 3-305B, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals.
Thank you, Mr. Chiavacci. May I have a second?
Second.
Been a motion by Mr. Chiavacci and a second by Mr. Yingling to go into a closed session at the conclusion of this meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed
Aye.
say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. We'll now move into departmental reports. Ms. Matthews.
Thank you. I'd like to start off by giving Councilmember Dayhoff an opportunity to report on any activities of the fire department that he'd like to offer this evening.
Sure, thank you. We're going to, we'll do a monthly report at a later point in time. It's been a long meeting. But I do want to call to the public's attention that we are doing the Santa detail that we've done for many years. Tonight, tomorrow night, Wednesday and Thursday, weather permitting, we're going to have Santa Claus ride around in a piece of fire equipment. We have maps out on our Facebook page for the Westminster Fire Department Santa Run. If you can consult those maps, and we keep those maps up while it is that we're doing the Santa detail and traveling from one section of town to another. So if the public would take a look at that Facebook page, Westminster Fire Department Santa Run, you can keep up to date as to where Santa Claus will be arriving in your neighborhood sometime soon. Other than that, be safe out there. We've had a couple of bad accidents recently, and this is not the time of the year to be reckless or careless. You need to be thoroughly diligent, especially with the bad weather coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dayhoff. Earlier this evening, we kind of said our farewell to our retiring HR director, and I would just like to welcome Ray McCullough, our new HR director. This is her first Mayor and Common Council meeting, so Ray, welcome. Also wanted to share with the Mayor and Common Council that I have been working with Advantage Title as well as the representatives for Family and Children's Services on finalizing the closing documents for the city's sale of the West End Place property. I anticipate that we should close on the property sometime within the next 30 days. And then lastly, at your meeting on November 23rd, the Mayor and Common Council approved the furniture package for the 45 West Main. I have been working since your meeting with city staff and with Gant Brunette, and I anticipate that we'll be placing that order by the end of this week to make sure that we don't miss any, don't encounter any pricing challenges if we get into 2021, not to mention we also need to place the furniture so we have a place for our staff to sit when we move next year. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Colston, our Director of Finance.
Hi, thank you. I have no report tonight.
But you do have a rocking background with all the money, so thank you.
I do.
Mr. Depot.
I also have nothing for tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Glass.
I should have nothing for tonight, but I'm going to speak briefly, just to let everybody know. I don't know if the word's out or not, but there's a potential for some snow on Wednesday. So rest assured, the street department is geared up and prepared to move for that. So then the last thing is to just wish everyone a happy holiday. I don't think we meet again until after that occurs. So that does it for me, unless there are questions.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Ms. Gruber.
Good evening, everyone. Just a couple of brief updates. I wanted to bring to your attention that the Recreation and Parks Department, although we're only 2 weeks into the month of December, have served nearly 1,000 children through a series of events. On December 1st and 8th, we had 2 drive-through craft opportunities, serving almost 350 children. We have 3 additional remaining drive-through craft events for the rest of the month scheduled. We also distributed over 200 gingerbread cookie decorating kits on December 11th. And this past Saturday, Santa visited City Park, and almost 150 children got to drive through and have a brief visit with Santa and Mrs. Claus. So also important to note is that we held the inaugural meeting of the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board. And I would just like to thank the mayor and council for their appointments to that board. It seems to be a very dynamic and engaging group of folks that I am incredibly excited and privileged to work with. And lastly, our big news this evening is due to the threat of severe weather, we have decided to cancel the in-person public input meeting for Wakefield Valley Park, which was scheduled for Wednesday, December 16th. Although interested citizens won't be able to participate in person, we strongly encourage them to engage in the process virtually. Virtual engagement in the meeting will mimic the plan for the in-person meeting and will allow participants to do the following. They'll be able to participate the same way as they would have in person on Wednesday evening at 6 or 7:15 p.m. They'll be able to submit input into the master planning process using Padlet, an interactive online data collection application. And they'll also be able to ask questions via email. Part of the presentation for folks that might not be familiar with Padlet will include a brief tutorial on how to use that particular online solution. Tech support will also be available through Zoom chat or by phone. Attending virtually, for those who are interested in doing so, is easy. They simply need to visit the Wakefield Valley Park landing page on the city's website, scroll down to watch on Zoom, and they can click on the link to register. Official notification of this cancellation, along with instructions on how to participate virtually, will be emailed to everyone tomorrow who RSVP'd to participate in the in-person meeting. Additionally, we will be posting notifications to the city's website and Facebook pages tomorrow as well. At this point, it's not our intention to reschedule the in-person meeting, and we certainly do hope that we have robust virtual participation. We do have 2 additional meetings planned for the early part of 2021 to hold in-person meetings and gain public input for the master planning and development process during those opportunities. as well. As it stood this evening when I checked our RSVP list, we had 42 folks planning to attend in person for the 6 p.m. session and 14 planning to attend in person for the 7:15 session. Does anybody have any questions about this? That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Gruber. And last but certainly not least, our new HR director, Ms. McCullough.
Forget us.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. I was reading my list wrong. I'm sorry, Chief Ledwell Ray, can you hold on just a few more minutes?
Good evening. So the only thing I have tonight is I'd like to introduce our new deputy chief. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera to him. So I'm excited about bringing aboard Richard Gibson as our new major. Major Gibson lives here in the city of Westminster with his family. He's excited about moving our police department forward and the positive impact it'll have on the community where he lives. He brings a wealth of relevant experience that's in line with my philosophy regarding local policing, including data-driven, problem-oriented, and community-oriented policing strategies. Major Gibson holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the University of Baltimore. He holds a master's degree in management from Johns Hopkins University. He completed the PERF Senior Management Institute for Policing, and he's scheduled to attend an upcoming session of the FBI National Academy. Major Gibson's a veteran of the U.S. Navy, where he was deployed in the Persian Gulf during Operation Desert Storm. He just retired from the Baltimore City Police Department as a major and commander of the Northern District, a role he served in since 2015. His police experience with Baltimore PD from 97 through 2020 includes patrol officer, detective criminal intelligence section, detective criminal investigations division, sergeant citywide operations unit, lieutenant patrol division Northern District, detective lieutenant Southeastern District, detective lieutenant homicide section, captain Northern District, and then finally major and commander of the Northern District. Major Gibson implemented community policing programs, developed Intel-led predictive policing deployment strategies, conceptualized new community policing programs, and implemented a homicide intelligence program. He excelled at Baltimore PD, and he received numerous awards, including a Bronze Star, 4 life-saving awards, and numerous commendations and proclamations. So I'll just turn it over to Major Gibson if you'd like to introduce.
Well, I don't know how I can, thank you, that was a wonderful introduction. But the bottom line is, I love Westminster. We've lived in Westminster since 2006. I live over in Finby Farm. I'm just excited, and the chief and I have a very, very, very similar vision, and I'm just really, really excited to be here. I'm eager to be here. Community comes first, and we know community comes first, and nationally, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on nationally, and the chief and I are going to work on taking the agency to the next level. And the first thing we need to do is really continue to build trust and legitimacy within the community of Westminster. And we have some plans on moving forward, what we're going to do with the community. We're going to talk more with the city council people about it. But it's about raising that level of trust and legitimacy and that level of confidence that we want the community to have. And we work for the community, we serve the community. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you for letting me come.
That's all I have.
Well, Major Gibson, welcome. Nice to see you again. I had the opportunity to meet you during your initial interview with us, and I look forward to working with you, as I'm sure the Mayor Common Council do as well.
It's nice meeting everybody.
Yeah. And with that, Ms. McCullough, finally, I apologize for making you wait.
Good evening. Good evening. How's everyone this evening? First off, I'd like to just let everyone know that I'm really glad to be on board with the City of Westminster. I'm settling in. I just completed my 3rd week last Friday. So I'm just getting to know the HR team. And last week, I also completed my city tour. Met several of the staff members, went to the different facilities. The weather was lovely last week, so it was nice. It wasn't too cold got a chance to kind of walk around and really learn the city. And also I had participated in a couple of introduction meetings with our health insurance providers, with a nationwide provider who is our 457 plan provider. And also I attended the Cigna utilization meeting with Barb last week. And let's see, I completed some HIPAA training. So moving forward, I'll just continue to, reach out to the different department heads and working on just familiarizing myself with the policies and procedures and getting prepared for our move next year.
Thank you, Ms. McCullough. And once again, welcome. We're very glad to have you on board.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone.
And just one brief mention, President Pecoraro, before I wrap up, I did just want to mention that businesses have the opportunity to decorate their storefronts. We will be awarding the Mayor's Cup this year. And I believe Mayor Dominick will be making his selections in about a week or so. So if there's any businesses listening who haven't decorated their storefront or haven't submitted their paperwork for the Mayor's Cup, I encourage them to do so. And with that, President Pecoraro, I think that completes staff's reports, and just wish the Mayor and Common Council happy holidays. Look forward to seeing everybody again in the new year.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Matthews, and welcome to our new HR Director, Ms. McCullough. It's great to have you finally on board, and our new Deputy Chief Major Gibson as well. We're very pleased to have both of you with us tonight. The final item on our agenda is citizen comments, when we invite the public to address the Mayor and Council on any issues that pertain to tonight's agenda or any other city issues. During these virtual meetings, we will invite comments to be sent to our city clerk at comments@westgov.com. Commenters should include their address and phone number with their comments. At this time in every meeting, I will read out the comments we've received. And we have received one comment since the last meeting, and it comes from Ms. Sandra Lotes of 153 East Main Street. And she says, I commend the mayor and members of the Common Council on moving forward with proposed amendments to update the city's ethics code to meet state requirements. I appreciate that you have been working with the State Ethics Commission to make sure the updated city code will be in compliance with current state law, and also that you chose in some instances to exceed the current state requirements. A robust and effective ethics code is important for governmental transparency and accountability. Enacting these amendments will greatly benefit the citizens of Westminster. Please approve these amendments to be enacted swiftly. Thank you for your efforts. And that concludes our agenda for this evening and the meeting. I hope everyone has a safe, healthy, and happy holiday season, whether you celebrate Hanukkah, Christmas, or something else, and hoping that the new year 2021 will truly be happier for us all. And with that, without objection, we are adjourned until the closed meeting in a few moments. Thank you very much.